All right, welcome back to the Conservatine. I'm your host, Chase Levitt, and today I would like to welcome Jared Schmeck onto the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem. Can you take like 60 seconds to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Jared Schmeck. I am a husband. 14 years now. Been married to my amazing wife, Amanda. We have four children, and ages are, gosh, Griffin just turned 12. So 12, 9, 4, and 2. And We live in Southern Oregon. I'm a former police officer, currently working in the family business, which is an electrical contracting company. I am most importantly a follower of Jesus Christ, and like so many other patriots in this country, I'm just really fed up with what's going on and the
Yeah,
direction our nation is taking right now.
yeah, for sure. How would you say that your faith has impacted your beliefs politically?
It's a core. It is my core. My faith is my core, and obviously that is going to affect not only your political beliefs and values, but your beliefs and values in everyday life. Cherishing family, which is basically cherishing the opposite of what our society is pushing down our throats right now. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's the key reason that I uh, believe the way I do on a political sense as well.
awesome. So my next question I have for you is I'm going to ask you about that Christmas Eve call. I'm sure you've been asked this so many times on a lot of different places, but if you just want to walk us through that and what happened and just give us that story.
Yeah, yeah. So my sons and I have been calling NORAD every year for the last 3 years or so. And if you don't know what that is, because I didn't, my sons are the ones who actually first told me about it. Uh, you can call in on Christmas Eve to NORAD at the Air Force Base in Colorado. I think it's a Space Force base now, and talk to a volunteer, and they will tell your kids when Santa Claus is supposed to be coming into your area. You can track it online, and so that's really all it's been. I had no idea that anyone in the White House ever took calls. I didn't know that was a thing, um, and so we were just calling like we normally do on Christmas Eve. So that morning, my boys said, "Hey, we need to make sure we call NORAD." My wife's out in the kitchen; she was baking for the next day, and the volunteer told us that Jill Biden was taking phone calls and asked if we wanted to talk to her. And so I said, "Sure, let's see how this goes." And yeah, and that was how the call started. Um, I didn't know it was live streamed. Didn't know Joe was going to be on the phone as well. I never in a million years thought they would let him talk to anyone that wasn't on a script. And all they asked me for was my name and what state I was from. That's it.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I just remember seeing the next day it was like dad from Oregon says, "Let's go Brandon to Joe Biden." And I was like, "Man,
Yeah.
that's amazing." I mean, you're basically just saying what most Americans are thinking right now. Um, and
Yeah.
and I'm
Go
sure
ahead.
you faced a lot of backlash for it. And what's that been?
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, that I couldn't pass up on the opportunity. Um, Once I heard him pick up the phone, I'm like, no way. Like, are they really like, is this real? And
Yeah.
so, Let's Go Brandon is something that a lot of people can relate with, not even just in America. People around the world can relate to this. We know how it started. The media kind of handed this to us as a gift on a platter in a way, but it's grown to encompass like our all of our frustrations with this administration, with the cancel culture, with the left wing media, a leftist mob in general, and the mandates and just general lack of freedom that this administration is pushing on us right now.
Yeah.
So the backlash, I didn't, like I said, I didn't know this was live streamed. So I wasn't expecting a great deal of backlash, maybe a phone call afterwards or something like that. Um, but we were right after the phone call. I went out and told my wife what had happened. She was in the kitchen, and she pulls up social media maybe 10 minutes later, and Breitbart had posted the phone call, and that's when I realized it was live streamed.
Yeah.
So at that point, I knew there was going to be some backlash, and it was not immediate, but pretty close to immediate.
Yeah.
That we were getting phone calls, text messages. Our business as well was getting a ton of phone calls. My parents, my in-laws, cousins, aunts, uncles, you name it. And within 24 hours, it had really escalated. The media was calling me. I got a phone call from the Oregonian, which is a very left-leaning, um, I guess I call it a news organization, but propaganda organization in Northern Oregon, and they totally misconstrued what I was trying to tell them in an article, and so from that point on, I knew I couldn't be quiet if I had the opportunity to speak, and because my beliefs are very important to me. So
Yeah.
if they're going to put this out there, then I want to make sure that it's accurate. And that night is when things got kind of nasty. We started receiving death threats. My phone was ringing, and my wife's too. As soon as it would stop, it would just start again. And a lot of, I mean, several different phone numbers calling us, unknown phone numbers calling us as well, naming my kids, threatening to burn down my house. You name it, they were saying it. And it was, I'll admit, it was pretty scary at first because you see this on the news every day, and you see President Trump going through this, and you see anyone who speaks out against this narrative uh,
Yeah.
goes against this machine. It's the same playbook every single time. And I mean, frankly, it's bullying, is what it is. But they do a really good job of making you feel alone. And we did feel alone that first night. And about like 3 o'clock in the morning, um, I was texting my parents because they were also getting phone calls. Just as a family, we all prayed in our own places in Oregon because we don't live in the same town, and we all prayed for peace and for guidance on what to do with this because we were concerned about our business as well, and if this would affect our team. And so there's a lot of different things to think about. And my son Griffin, who's 12 now, he had a he had a really full understanding of what was going on, and it was scaring him. And so he at one point told me he wished I hadn't said "Let's go, Brandon" to Joe Biden. And when he said that, it really clicked for me. Like, hey, what I do right now, my sons are watching, and am I going to bow down to this and just go away, or are we going to stand up for our beliefs, stand up for our faith, stand up for freedom? And I told him that our freedoms are not privileges given to us by our government. They're not a gift of man; they are a gift from God. God-given right that we have um, from birth, and no one can take that from us unless we willingly hand it to them. So from that point on, we decided that, hey, we're going to speak out in every chance that we can and try and encourage other people that are going through the same thing, because a lot of people were at the time, a lot of people still are, but the mandates we were deep in the middle of that, and people losing their jobs, and for standing up for their beliefs. And so yeah, it was kind of from that point, I would say I still get hate mail
Yeah.
to this day, which is crazy to me. I mean, Joe agreed with me, right? So why
I
are we
know.
mad?
Yeah.
But but anyway, we do still get mail, and every once in a while a threat on the phone or whatnot. But once we stood up, there's patriots from all over the country and all over the world have reached out to us and just extended their support and their graciousness for speaking up and for not backing down. And I'm telling you, man, it's the reason they react the way they do. The reason cancel culture is so in your face is because they know there are more of us than there are of them. And so they try to isolate you, get you, basically give you tunnel vision. So all you can see is them. And we just have to remember that our God is bigger than all this. And through him, we can do anything. There are definitely more of us than there are of them. And the truth and what is right, those don't change. So as long as we stick to that, we're on the right side of history.
For sure. I first just want to say thank you for having the courage to still like stand up after that with all those threats that you got, because that's just terrible in itself. But for your courage and your family's courage to stand up and not back down and not let that overcome you and your beliefs, that's just truly inspiring. But how has, since we just talked about like the negative side of that, what's been some positives that have come from it? Like how has your life changed for the good after that?
It's changed quite a bit actually, and it really it really started when we decided to not back down. That's when the support really uh, gained full force. And so we were reached out to initially by David J. Harris Jr. And he was extremely supportive of just helping me navigate the initial chaos. Um, because, like I said, I mean, you see it on TV, it exists, but when you're actually going through it, it is a little bit different. And I was still kind of blown away that people were so mad as to threaten to harm my kids, putting my address online and my phone number online over a phone call. So, uh, and we know why they're mad because Joe had proven once again that he's completely clueless to anything going on.
Yeah.
And Jill's not. She knew what was going on for sure,
She gave him
but
that look.
but it's from that point on he reached out. Benny Johnson, um, a bunch of other people, man. I mean, there's too many to name, and people on social media and just people that from all over. I mean, we get mail from Australia. I've gotten messages from people in Ireland thanking me, and there's everyone in the world's affected by what's happening in America.
Yeah.
And if America's not strong, the rest of the world suffers. And our media wouldn't have you believe that or know that, but that's the way it is.
Mhm.
And so that's why we saw so much stability when Donald Trump was in office. But from there, we've been invited to speak at different events. My wife and I, we went to a Kerry Lake rally down in Arizona,
Oh,
Patriot Fest in Florida, the Reawaken America tour up in it was in Salem, actually, of all places. And I actually wasn't invited to speak there. I just went with my son, but we knew some people that were speaking there, and they invited me up on stage. And man, the energy was just crazy. You wouldn't know living in Oregon. You wouldn't know. I mean, there's patriots here, but you
yeah.
wouldn't know that there's so much energy. Um, it really was. It was an eye-opening experience because people in Oregon are sick of what's going on in our own state. You hear about Portland, on the news all the time, and we're in Southern Oregon, which is thankfully far more conservative. But everything comes from Salem and Portland, and it's all
Yeah.
rolling south. So there's a lot of there are a lot of patriots here, and just that general support has been so much more powerful than all the hate that we've received.
It's awesome. That's totally awesome. And have you been to a Turning Point USA event yet? Like America Fest?
No, I'm hoping I should be going to America Fest in December.
Yeah,
I missed the student action seminar. Frankly, it was just too expensive to get across
yeah,
the country.
for sure. Yeah, I might be there. I'm looking forward to that, to being able to go.
Cool.
But that's just really awesome. All the support that you've gotten, um, despite all the hate that you've gotten, like that really just does. There are more of us than there are of them, like you said. And so it's really just keep like standing up and just not backing down. But I want to ask you, because you're a TPUSA ambassador, correct? Um,
Yes.
what led you to TPUSA, and what do you like about that organization? And just a little bit
hmm
about
So I followed Charlie Kirk for years, and I've listened to his podcast on and off for years. Heard his interviews, and just really um, noticed what he's doing, because what he's doing is so important right now, and that's specifically uh, targeting youth and college, and now actually high school, and just I guess helping to fight against the propaganda machine, the public school system that's indoctrinating our students, and teaching kids and college students and whatnot what freedom is, what the foundations of our country are. Small government, big government sucks. That's one of the things, and and just also tying in the faith aspect to it is, I think, why I've stuck with paying attention to what Turning Point's doing, because without God at the center of all this, there's no point to any of it. He is at the center of all this, and he's also, the fact that we become so godless as a country is the reason that we're in the spot that we're in.
it. Sure.
Um, and so we need to return to those Judeo-Christian values and principles that we were founded on. And so that's and just the fact that Charlie's so young, and he does not. That's not a guy that's going to back down. He will never back down. And so it's very encouraging. And so before any of this, I didn't have social media. I mean, I had a couple like little accounts to follow things, and I had a Twitter when President Trump had a Twitter, because I like to see what he was saying. But I created a new one basically when this phone call happened, and it kind of blew up. So they reached out to me. I got to know a guy that works for Turning Point, and they reached out to me regarding being an ambassador. And so it's an honoring. I was very honored to be asked to do that, and had the chance of actually touring their facility in Arizona. And it's amazing because the energy that's in there. All these people are fighting so hard for our country, and so hard for this next generation that's coming up, and the one behind them, which we all know is who is probably under the most attack right now,
For sure.
is our youth, and the family unit. And so yeah, I can't say anything more positive. That I mean, it is such an amazing organization.
No, yeah, they are really great. I just remember finding them for the first time, and I was like, "Yeah, this organization's amazing," and I've been following them ever since, um, and hoping to, I watched their videos all the time. I watched the Student Action Summit live, just kind of all that
Mhm.
stuff, because they're just such a good organization who are really fighting for the good of our country and fighting for like my generation
Yep.
and all the youth. But my last question for you is, I you've probably been asked this, but a few times, but would you ever consider running for any type of public office?
My whole thing with all of this, and I guess my guidance on this is God. Wherever God leads me, I will jump on it, whether or not I want to, personally. And so, I'm praying about it. We've obviously, we're on midterms right now. It wasn't the right time for me to even think about it here in Oregon. Um, I don't know if we're going to stay in Oregon. We Before all of this, we're looking at other places to live that were maybe more cost effective
Yeah.
and just better for our family. So I don't know where the Lord's leading us on any of that. But I can tell you that if He leads me to a position of office, wherever that's at, whatever capacity it's in, I'll do it.
That's awesome. I know that you'll have my support, you'll have millions of other Americans' support if you do that. So that would be awesome. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. And what you've done is truly awesome and inspiring. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, man. And I appreciate what you're doing. It's huge. How old are you right now?
I'm almost 17.
Almost 17.
Yeah,
Keep doing what you're doing, because people like you that are going to influence people your age and the next generation as well. I mean, my boy's 12 and he's already paying attention to what folks like you are saying and doing out there. So just keep doing what you're doing, and God bless you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, and God bless you too.
Thank you.
Yep.